What's up, folks? How's it going? This is Abhijit here, and welcome to DevOps Challenge Hub. So let's start with today's interview question, and let me share my screen. So today again we have few more scenario-based questions. Today we will discuss three more scenario-based questions on EKS, and stay till the end because at the end we'll have some quizzes. You can pause the video, participate in that, and you can validate your concept, validate your understanding. And let's start with this. Let's start with the first question. You are asked to harden security on your EKS cluster. What are the best practices you would apply? So, what is the harden the security means? Like basically, you have to implement best security practices. So, whatever possible, all the possible ways, all the areas of you have to implement the securities. All the areas you have to cover. So, to harden security on Amazon EKS cluster, five key areas I will consider: access control, networking, pod security, secrets management, and monitoring. The first one is the access control. Access control we have already discussed a couple of times in previous videos, also interview question videos. So where we have two types of access. One is user get access to EKS cluster through IAM user, and after that user will have authorized whether user is authorized to view the pod or delete the pod. That will be decided by role-based access control. So IAM plus RBAC. So this is the way you decide authentication plus authorization. So authentication, whether user is able to get inside the cloud, get inside it, whether log into the system, that is the IAM. And after that, role-based access control, whether it will be able to view it or delete it, that will be decided based on the role-based access control. So that we set it up. And then we also set up some pods or apps, they need to download some files from S3 or write into database. So whether they will be able to access outside AWS services or not. So for that also we provide IAM rules for service account. We provide IAM rules for service account and use least privilege principle. So whatever minimal is required, we'll provide that. So if pod is only going to upload S3 files to S3 bucket, it's not going to delete it. So we'll provide only that permission. We are not going to provide full admin access for S3, full access to S3. We'll provide very least privilege, whatever limited access is required. If it requires to access to only one particular bucket, give access only to particular bucket. Don't give it to all the buckets. So that is the first thing. After that, I will limit kubectl access so that it should not be like anyone can come and access that kubectl, log into the system and able to run kubectl, apply, etc. Right? So the developer or whoever DevOps engineer who has given access to run this kubectl, I will be giving CID range or a range of that particular IP address so that it's restricted to access that EKS API server. I will disable public access to EKS API server and create read-only rules for developers if full control is not needed. After that, I will look at the network security. Network security will see that disable the public endpoint and VPC endpoint, use VPC endpoints to access AWS services privately. So for example, pod needs to access S3 bucket. So it should use VPC endpoint to access that. So that way all requests will be within Amazon network, within AWS network. It's not going to internet, right? So I will use VPC endpoint to access AWS service privately. Then use network policy so that pod to pod communication, this pod A to pod B communication, whether it's required or not, all this will be decided by network policy. So I will use Calico. So this is the network policy. Then security group. Security group, easy to start security groups to individual pod if you're using EC2 nodes. But there also I can restrict access, right? What incoming request will be allowed or not, what port. So I will be restricting that. Then pod and working security. So enable pod security standard, PSS. So enforce restricted policies via pod security admission controller. Using this, I will be Enabling restricted policies, prevent privilege escalation, root containers, host path mount. So pod should not be able to like go to as a root, run as a root container, or they should not be able to host path mount. So I will disabling, if not disabling all this. Use restricted policies. Use read-only file system. Run container with read-only root file system. True wherever possible. Non-root user. Run container as non-root by setting security context. Then security management. Next part is fourth point will be security management. So I won't be storing username, password, etc. in a plain text in YML file. So I'll be storing them in the security AWS secrets manager. Won't be storing as a plain text secrets in YML. Then finally, I will be setting up observability and audit. Who is accessing what? Why they are accessing? Everything should be tracked. Everything should be logged for auditing purpose. If something happened, if security breach happens, I should be able to see in the log. You should be able to see in the trace what happened, why it happened, who did what, right? And I will use tools like Falco for runtime security monitoring, Kubebench to scan against CIS benchmarks, KubeHunter to simulate attacks and find vulnerabilities. So these are the different ways I will be harden the security. The first thing is I will be setting up the access control role, IAM plus RBAC, role-based access control. Then I'll be setting up IAM roles for service account for the pod. Then I will be setting up the network security, right? Network policies, Calico, subnet rules, security group things. Then pod security standards. So it should not be able to mount. It should not run as a root container, read-only file system. Then secrets manager should not be storing the password as in a plain text. And finally, observability and audit. And some thing also I can do image security. I will be using scanned sign images. I won't pick up some random images. I will be picking up the images from the trusted registries, scanned and signed images. All these signed Docker images will be using it in the deployment environment. And for auto scaling, I'll be preventing denial of service attack. I will be setting the limits per request. So from one IP address, there can be like 10,000 requests. Right? For example, in a wedding ceremony or like in where we are serving food, you will say that I'm request like fish fry maybe per guest it's 2 max. Right? So one guest should not be able to request 10. So similarly, like I'm setting up the limits per request. Then integrate security scanning tools, Trivi, node groups, use manage node groups. So they are the way I will harden the security. You can pause and revise once again. Like you can pause it and you can try to tell yourself. You can take a small notes, 4 or 5 points, and try to say yourself whether you're able to say it or not. Because only watching won't help. And first you do hands-on, set up EKS cluster, etc. And after that, come to interview questions, practice it, and pause the video, try to tell it. Traffic to your app increased 10x during peak hours. How will you scale your EKS workload to handle it? During peak hours, it's 10 times. How will you handle it? So we have to set up autoscaler, pod autoscaler, horizontal pod autoscaler HP. Scale pods based on the CPU and memory or custom metrics. For example, CPU greater than 70% increase the number of replicas, right? Minimum replica to maximum 20 for the deployment, and based on the utilization, we set up this matrix. After the horizontal autoscaler, set up the cluster autoscaler. So automatically add or remove EC2 instance based on the workload. They ensure that AC allows scaling up and handle the peak load. Then also we'll set up request and limit what each this container will be using, how much memory CPU it will be using, and what will be the maximum. I know that this my application it needs this much memory CPU. It should not ask for 10 times more. Then there is something problem. Maybe it hung or maybe it's malfunctioning. It's not working properly. It should be killed, right? So I will set up the limit also. So that it should not hog the system. Then I will use load balancer so that load is distributed. Then I will also set up a Prometheus metric server so that I can Prometheus metric server to provide resource usage data to HPA. Prometheus Grafana to monitor upscaling trends and adjust the threshold. Or we will be able to monitor and adjust the threshold. Optional, use Carpenter to node autoscaling. Carpenter is a modern autoscaler that provision nodes faster and more cost efficiently than cluster autoscaler. It scales based on real-time pod speeds and launch spot or on-demand nodes as needed. So this is another good one, Carpenter. So I can use that. So the other things to handle 10x load during peak time, horizontal pod autoscaler, cluster autoscaler. I will set a resource request and limit so that it should not be hogged. Then load balancer to distribute the load. Prometheus and metric server to monitor it. Or you can again pause and try to answer whatever I said that try to say yourself. So that way you build up confidence. This is the way you can practice. We'll go to the next one. Your application is intermittently failing in EKS. But you don't have logs or metrics configured. What would you do? You don't have logs or metrics configured, and your application is intermittently failing. It's not failing, but sometimes it's failing. When it's working, what's happening, you don't know. So you have to figure it out. Okay. So if it is intermittently failing, so what I will do first, I will get the pod detail, get basic info from the Kubernetes, QCT get pods, then describe the pod, get events. I will look for crash, look back off, on kill, failed mouse, etc. And it may show restart, failure, scheduling issues. So I'll be using this get pods, discard pods, discard get events, and then I will be checking the container logs, kubectl logs, pod name minus namespace. Check for the logs. Then deploy debug pod so that if the app is network independent or failing silently, run debug pod, bigger box, and do some telnet call, DNS lookup to see what kind of issues are there. Increase replicas temporarily. If failures are intermittent, scale up temporarily and see to isolate whether it's a node issue or pod issue or traffic related issues. Then manually check the nodes, kubectl get nodes, discard nodes, and see what kind of issues, whether it's a disk issues or memory pressure or network error, what kind of issues happening in that node. Then set up minimal observability immediately. Set up this kubectl top to show SQL node usage, kubectl top pod, top node, see the usage, enable container logs to CloudWatch, add readiness and liveness probes so that ensure failures get captured properly and don't suddenly pass. So what I will do, I will first do kubectl describes logs, get the event, do the event inspection, check the logs. So these are the ways I will be checking the things, try to debug it if logs are not there. Get pods, describe pods, get the events, check container logs, etc. I will be doing. Yeah, you can pause and again try to see yourself whatever I say. That way you can practice it. So now let's go to the quiz section and you can pause and try to answer. The first question is, which is the most secure way to give pods access to AWS service? Stop encrypted keys in this thing and roll give not privileges use So answer is use IAM roles for service account. IAM roles for service account. That is the answer. To restrict pod-to-pod communication, what should you implement? Pod-to-pod communication, you want to restrict. You can pause and try to answer. So restrict pod-to-pod communication, you will be setting up network policies. Like Calico, we have said, right? Network policies, Calico. You can use Calico. B. Where should EKS API server access be restricted? If you want to restrict EKS API server access, what should you do? By IP, CIDR, or public endpoint. Like restrict the public access by IP CIDR range. Which AWS service is recommended for storing sensitive data, sensitive credentials? Secrets Manager. In AWS Secrets Manager, use storing. Which feature scales the number of worker nodes automatically? Nodes automatically scales, cluster autoscale. Cluster autoscale, but node. Which modern autoscaling tool for EKS launches nodes faster than cluster autoscaler? Modern autoscaler tool is Carpenter. Carpenter is a modern autoscaler. What is the first Kubernetes command to check pod restart causes? Top describe pod, describe pod. kubectl, describe pod. If you suspect DNS inside, if you inside a pod, which test should you run? DNS issuance, I will run NS lookup. Which lightweight tool can immediately collect cluster CPU memory usage? Lightweight tool cluster CPU memory usage. It's metric server. It's a metric server. Answer is B. So that's it for today. Hope you like this video. Please like, share, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also let me know how you're liking this video, finding this video. And follow my page, DevOps Challenge Hub LinkedIn page. I post quiz contest daily. You can participate in that. And also follow WhatsApp channel. I post updates regularly. Thank you for watching this video. See you again in the next video.